Hey, Truck, if they're not looking for employment, aren't they typically factored out of the employment equation? Yes. I think I mentioned that. Yeah, I said 23% or 21% is already really high, and that doesn't even include people that are not looking. Same goes for USA number. Yes, I mean, USA's number is a little bit cooked because we have an incredible amount of rising disability cases as a result, I think, of long COVID. So there's a lot of people that are opting out of like looking for a job right now because they're dealing with ongoing health issues, and so that they're not looking for a job. So our unemployment rate seems a little bit lower than it is. I mean, a large part of this is because, you know, wages have not kept up with productivity. And so as inflation rises and prices get out of control, people realize they're not going to give up an hour of their time to work for, in some states, a minimum wage that earns them nothing. Like it is not worth the time spent. And so unless the wages rise commensurately, people just won't go back to work in certain locations. Inflation numbers were really good in the US recently. Does that mean interest rates are likely to peak on interest rates? Yeah, inflation numbers are amazing. Actually, if you look at, there's a great website, trueflation.com. And inflation has been dropping. It's in a good spot. Now, that being said, this looks kind of better than it is, right? Because you imagine it's only still rising by 2.25%. But that doesn't mean the prices are falling. It means they're just rising slower. Will housing crash? Is apartment housing killing me? Tough to say. There's kind of two forces at work. And the number one is that people aren't selling. You get a mortgage, right? And in 2021, people got mortgages for like 2%. So it's a pretty low payment. But now all the mortgages you get are like 7%. So the payments are very high. And so nobody wants to sell their low mortgage house to get a high payment. They get a, you know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to do that. So a lot of boomers are just sitting on their houses. Now, my guess is that once the Airbnb stuff really crashes, which it already has, and the short-term rental stuff starts crashing, we're going to see forced sales. Lots and lots and lots of forced sales, which should drive down the price pretty dramatically. Plus, a lot of home builders have been building houses at a record rate. And once those come online, I think we're not too far off from a pretty significant, or at least a steady decline in housing prices, but there's no one knows for sure. 30 and 31-year-olds are the biggest population group in America right now, and they are all wanting to buy houses, and everyone who has a house is refusing to sell. It's a weird time. How do we bring the price of Chipotle back down to $8? I very much doubt the price will ever go down. I think wages might go up. Companies very, very much hate the idea of ever increasing wages for any reason. And that is why we're seeing more labor movement than ever before. And I think it's not one individual thing. I think it's a lot of people across a lot of industries realizing like, hey, this is fucked. Like my wages have not kept up with the cost of my life. Rent is high, housing is high, food is high, and I need wages to match. And so we're seeing more strikes than ever before. We're seeing more labor movements than ever before. I think it's because people have to collectively organize in response to this fucking, like, times just don't make sense. Why can't we pin all the debt in the world onto one person on the world and then kill them? The Jesus Christ method? Yeah, I mean, I guess we could try it. I don't... He died for our student loans. Need an India segment? Wait, dude, I think we're going to start needing one. There was an incredible article. I couldn't include it in Marketing Monday. Let me see if I... So look, this is the world. Dude, I'm so fucking boomer. This is the year I was born. Anyway, back in 1991, you can see that most of the world is young. The blue and the green is young. So China has this huge middle-aged, working-age population. You know, 25 to 45. United States, same thing. But a lot of the global south is young. Everyone, Western Europe's pretty working age. Everything is, in the 90s, we have this huge glut of people in working age, and things are great. And economic growth is fucking booming. And then we go, all right? Go through time. Everyone's growing. Things are great. Then we get into the 2000s. And you start to notice over here, people aren't having that many babies in the 90s and the 2000s, 2001s. And so everyone alive is good. There's a big population boom earlier, but they're getting older and no new babies not as many babies are coming. And you start to see Japan turn yellow in 2010. Now they're like old. Now Japan's like an old society in 2010. Like they already have like too many old people. Now it's deep yellow. Japan is a quarter of the population is 65 and older, making Japan the oldest large country ever. That's in 2013. This is the year we're in now, 2023. Japan's really old, Europe's getting there, and everyone else seems okay. Let's flash forward 10 years. Okay, now we got United States looking pretty old. We got Western Europe having record old age. Like everyone in Western Europe's a fucking boomer. Keep going. And then you start to see the real bad one, which is China. So by 2040, again, China's having a birth rate crisis. They just have not enough babies being born to stay in the population. But United States does not get old that fast because of immigration, which is like the only superpower. I can't believe people try to choke it off. But you'll notice who's not fucked up here. And it's fucking India, dude. India has a huge population of young people that's going to peak in the next 10, 20 years. And they're about to have just fucking decades of boom time. I think India is in such a good spot demographically. That is why, I mean, I'm super bullish on India for the next couple decades. I just think they're set up for what the United States had in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and what China had in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, which is like 30 years of just great population demographics. It would be so funny if in the year 2050, India invaded Britain. Is it good to be that big? I mean, there's just a huge correlation between a large amount of working age population and GDP growth, standard living increase, companies rising on the world stage, economic increase. Like it's happened multiple times in the past. So there's a good chance it'll happen in India. The one thing that could fuck up India's, I mean, throughout all of human history, this would be fucking amazing, right? But AI does throw a wrench in things. Because if AI replaces the need for humans for a huge amount of jobs, by 2050, then having a ton of humans is like bad. You kind of want just less people in general. China needs to take Taiwan before the average age of a military man is 50. That, you know what's crazy is like, that's a legitimate theory. Is that like China is basically right now at their demographic peak. China has the most young people and like working age people they're ever going to have. It's only going to get worse from here. Every day gets worse. I don't know. I feel like the next 5 years are like a really good time for China to like make a move. And if they don't, it's going to be harder and harder. Not that I'm saying I think they absolutely shouldn't. I'm just saying like if they're probably thinking like that, I can see why they've been so scaling up the rhetoric. Why does it sound like every country is in debt? Because they are. Dude, I think I knew this generally, but I've spent a lot more time lately reading about macro conditions and countries' debt to GDP, and it's like, it's crazy. The last 30 years have just been insane for debt globally. Every country has overspent. Every country has just printed money or overspent or borrowed, or debt to GDP has gotten out of control. It's record highs globally. And what that really means is that like current generations, basically the boomers, borrowed from the future. They basically borrowed from the future to pull forward the good times. If you really think about it, like it's like boomers borrowed from future generations to make everything better and the growth train run longer now. Once that runs out, like everyone else has to deal with the fucking problem. Hey, Big A, if you have the time, what books do you recommend for self-growth, personal relationship stuff? The best book I think is a good intro that I always recommend is Algebra of Happiness. Algebra of Happiness is basically a short book with like simple sort of proven studies on things that are proven to make you happy and why. And so they're like good ways of thinking about how you want to like live your life. Like what are things that are gonna be important to me? What should I prioritize? Big A, I've been reading Barbarians at the Gate and it's such a fun read. Dude, isn't it? One of the best business books I ever read. It's like it's a detailed account of how these huge fucking ego executives at a tobacco company tried to buy Nabisco crackers and make the greatest merger in American history at the time. And just like fucking the infighting, the pettiness, the fucking backstabbing, it's like real life Succession. I mean, it's crazy. Do you watch Peter Zehan? I do. I was just talking with Lud. That's so funny. I was just on a hike with Lud and we were talking about Peter Zehan. Peter Zehan, do you guys know of course that's your contention. You're a first year Gatorade drinker. That's how I feel about Peter Zehan, where it's like, I used to be super fucking Peter Zehan pilled. And then I read people who are like one level after him. They're like, actually, he's wrong about this. And so now I'm like, oh yeah, you like Peter Zehan? I'm cool with that. But honestly, he's a great intro. And the way he talks about demographics is fucking amazing. But he's a speaker that talks about demographics and the future and how we got here and all that. He's good. Got good videos. Check him out. What did Zehan get wrong? He just makes kind of wildly, I wouldn't say baseless, but speculative predictions about the future 50 years out with extreme confidence that aren't, that doesn't bear that out. Should I buy a call center in India and grind? I mean, the idea is that India would become more of a superpower economy and have more to do than call centers. But you know what? I'm just going to tell you yes. Check it on me in 20 years. I want to hear from you in 20 years and you're like a fucking tycoon in India. You're just a fucking Indian billionaire, dude. Can I buy a Wetzel's Pretzels in the New Delhi airport? Unironically, that's kind of a fucking dream. I would love that. I have a secret urge to just fucking fly to New Delhi, set up a Wetzel's and just chill, dude. Just fucking show them amazing American pretzels, live my life, take a huge fucking markup, grow with the economy, own 100 Wetzel's. I'll be the Wetzel's fucking magnate of India. Climate change is going to cook India, isn't it? Dude, China just had one of, I think, their hottest day on record. Although I think we had it in America too. Actually, parts of Europe, America, and China just had their hottest days on record. Climate change is a problem around the globe, brother. Yeah, I mean, I saw a thing in China where they had to like, John Kerry flew to China on the hottest day ever, and he's the climate envoy. It's funny to be the US climate envoy and arrive when they're fucking sweltering, because you feel like you have, it feels like you have some evidence. Like, just look around. It's like, hey, we need you guys to cut coal emissions. Look around. It's fucked because China's got the largest emissions, but not the largest per capita. America's the largest per capita. So we're both kind of the problem. And China burns the most coal, but also builds the most solar. So they're doing a lot. They just also do a lot of bad. It's weird. The thing, I think, I was listening to a very interesting podcast from an energy trader who basically said like, hey, the end game of everything, if you really look at the fucking physics of it, is nuclear. Like, nuclear is by far the best energy source that humanity's ever created. And the fact that we don't use it is fucking crazy. Nuclear solves energy problems, increases energy independence, it reduces pollution, it's the greenest. I mean, nuclear is fucking awesome. And the reason we don't do it is because of fucking 3 Mile Island like fucking 40 years ago and the fucking nuclear panic. And if we just change the name, I literally think nuclear has a marketing problem. If they just change it to like fucking elemental energy or something and put the Pixar characters on it, if they just called it fucking elemental energy or something, we should have so many nuclear plants built. It's fucking crazy how much better it is than everything else. Because the problem with solar and like wind is like the land requirements. So you have to use like huge chunks of land to get equal amount of creation. And then, you know, coal and natural gas and everything is bad for the environment. So nuclear is just fucking awesome, man. I'm nuclear pilled. I'm a nuclear cell, nuclear pilled gang, dude. Whatever I have to say to convince TikTokers to get on the nuclear train, that's what I am, dude. Ice cream. Nuclear. Uranium. The issue is nuclear is so much more expensive to set up. Yeah, but it's upfront cost for energy independence and green energy and a long-term solution. It's just smart for a government to do. It's what a government should do, is take tax dollars and make long-term bets that benefit the economy. It's like what a government, it's just what a government should be designed to do, and we don't. And what's interesting is like, it was a new way of thinking about it for me, which is like basically that if you really think about what money is when you boil it down, it's almost like a dollar bill is basically a claim on energy. Like all human beings is basically transferring energy activity back and forth. And one good way to show that is like, so the median house in like the 70s, you could buy it for, I don't know, $100,000 or 4,400 barrels of oil. And now the median house in America, or in most countries, is like, you know, fucking 800,000, way more, way higher, million. House prices have gone way up in dollars. But a house, median house, still costs exactly 4,400 barrels of oil. Like the house price in oil has not changed at all. So at the end of the day, like what we're really trading for with goods and services, like claims on energy. Like energy is the thing that makes the entire economy go. So it's like V-Bucks. Yes, you got it. That's what I think. To sum it all up, what we've talked about today, it's that it's all like V-Bucks. If that really, does everyone get it now? It's like Fortnite V-Bucks. It's like sussy Among Us.